Hello everyone, welcome again. As you know, we have quite interesting offer in the shop at the moment. There is a bunch of tier 9 premium tanks, and I would like to bring some information and details about those tanks just to help you up to make a decision to buy or not to buy. So as you can see, we have a bundle and separated tanks. In the bundle we have K-91, Campagnpanzer 70, T-55A, and as a bonus AMX-30 first prototype. And for all of that we have to pay £44 or $44. If you want to buy those tanks separately, you have to pay $15 or £15. About AMX-30 first prototype, I did already the quick review video, and you can find it on the channel, and also I'm gonna leave this link in description of this video. About the other tanks, let's start with T-55A. Okay, to make it as easiest and quickest as possible, I would just like to tell you that T-55A is nothing more than upgraded version of T-54. T-54 is a well-known Russian medium tank, and is one of the best medium tanks on his tier. You have very good speed, very good maneuverability, decent gun, and very good armor. So in here we have exactly the same tank with the same speed, exactly the same parameters, except two small differences. The first one is the gun, actually the gun penetration, because on T-54 we have 201 millimeters, and here on T-55A there is 219 millimeters. So you have better penetration, but at the cost of reduced frontal armor. As you know, T-54 has a very good frontal armor, which is able to bounce a lot, and here also is not very bad, but is weaker than in a regular tank. About this armor we're gonna talk in a minute. So this is armor profile of T-55A, and as you can see on the frontal plate we have 191, 197, and the lower plate 190, also around 190 millimeters. So this one could be, from the front, could be quite easily penetrated, but most of tier 9 and some quite a lot of tier 8 tanks. So this one is much weaker than in T-54. Turret is still quite strong. We have 214 millimeters in the front, 215, 300. As you can see, is also nicely shaped and angled, so the penetration is much more difficult and gonna bounce a lot. The weak spot here is also the same like in T-54, 166 millimeters on the commander's hatch and 120 here, but this one is gonna bounce also. On the sides, nothing special. We have 80 millimeters all around the side, and turret 210, 219, 190, 190. So it's pretty much the same shape like in T-54. On the back, no revelations as well. 48 millimeters on the back and 60, 65 millimeters, 70 millimeters on the turret. So as you can see, the armor the frontal armor is quite weak, so you have to hold down or just avoid the contact face to face with the enemies. On tier 8 could be quite easy, but like I said, most of some tanks may easily penetrate this, especially when they use premium ammo. The turret is still quite strong, so the hold down is probably one of the best options for this tank. In here there is armor profile, armor performance of this tank, and like I said, against tier 8 it looks pretty good. It's quite dark, and all the turret is absolutely dark. About against tier 9, the frontal hull armor is getting much weaker, so you have to be very careful. It's not the same like T-54. You can bounce, you can wriggle and bounce. In here it's going to be much more, it's still possible, but it's going to be much more difficult to do it. And against tier 10, of course, is completely yellow, and this one you have to be really careful against tier 10. The next one is Campagnpanzer 70. And this is very good offer for all the players who likes to play with the derp guns. As you can see, we have 152mm gun here with 240mm of penetration, which is very good, and 560 alpha damage, which makes very good fear factor on this machine. The gun depression is not impressive. It's only 60 degrees and elevation 15, so this is not impressive. Aiming time 4.9 is quite good for a derp gun, is quite good quick aiming time. Dispersion also not bad, 0.36 on derp gun, so that makes it quite accurate. And reload time 16.6 gives us DPM on 2019 points per minute, which is maybe not spectacular, but everything is in a fear factor of this machine. The speed of this tank is not fantastic. This is quite sluggish tank. It's a very slow starter, and the maximum speed is gonna be, it says 40 km per hour, but maximum you can get is probably 35, no more. Average speed, as you can see, 30 km per hour, and with power to weight ratio 14.9, this tank is not the fastest tank. So the gameplay on this machine is, you know, if you consider not very good speed and quite long reload, probably just to stay on the second line and use your incredible alpha damage to bring a fear factor to among the enemies. About the armor profile, this is armor profile of Campagnpanzer 70, and as you can see, the frontal hull armor is not impressive. 224, 228, and the lower plate is 220, 230. So against tier 8 could be effective, but tier 9 and 10 can easily penetrate this armor. On the turret situation is much better. We have 309, 310, on the other side 295, so all the frontal armor is quite strong. Here 379, and on the other side 274, but this one is also very good, has a very good angle. The only problem is here, that's a commander's hatch, and even if you consider the space armor here, that makes it only 225 here in the corner, also even 95, 96 millimeters. So this is gonna be quite easy to penetrate. So even with hull down, you have to be careful and move the turret just to protect this part of the armor. On the sides, we have 105 millimeter here and 60 millimeter between the tracks. So this is really sensitive part of this tank. On the turret, 100 millimeters on the back of the turret and 180, 300. So the front part of the turret is very strong. This one is much weaker, and all the hull is really weak. On the back, same like most of the tanks, 63 millimeters, 62 millimeters, and 67 on the turret. So as you can see, the armor of this tank may be not very effective against higher tiers, especially against tier 10, or even turret could be in danger. But against lower tiers, tier 8 and 9, that could make a job. In here we have armor performance, and as like I said before, against tier 8, yeah, most of the tanks is a dark red, so which means it's a very good, very well protected. Against tier 9, the frontal hull armor gets much weaker, and like I said, could be easily penetrated by most of the tanks of tier 9. And tier 10, even turret, in some places even turret could be penetrated, so you got to be careful. And finally, last but not least, K-91, and this offer is quite interesting because the average speed is 30 km per hour, pretty much the same like Campagnpanzer 70, but it's much quicker starter, has a bit better maneuverability, and for some reason it feels a bit better, feels a bit lighter to maneuver than Campwagen. So it's probably a difference in ground resistance, because even if you consider slightly lower power to weight ratio on this tank, it feels better, you know, to maneuver better than Campwagen. And another difference is a gun, because here we have 100mm gun with autoloader. Is the old system autoloader, not auto reloader, the same that is used in the French tanks. And the magazine contains 3 shells, and each shell needs 3.5 seconds to reload, and to reload the whole clip we need 17.2 seconds. Penetration of this gun is 248mm with 350 damage per shot. That gives us around 1000 damage per clip. And damage per minute of this gun is almost 2600, quite impressive. The gun depression around 7 degrees, which is good enough, and elevation is slightly lower than in the other tanks, because we have only 10 degrees, but it's not a big problem. Aiming time 4.7 is also not a big problem because we have 3.5 seconds to reload between each shells. That gives us plenty of time to aim. Dispersion 0.34 makes this gun quite accurate. So to summarize, we have a tank with a nice decent speed, good maneuverability, a decent gun, so it looks pretty good. How about the armor then? Armor profile of K-91 looks quite interesting. In the front, the upper part is 239, 234, so it's quite strong. Against tier 8 gonna be very strong and effective. The lower part of the whole armor is 176, 177, so this one could be a weak spot. On the turret, it has interesting profile, you know, interesting shape. And if you look on the parameters, there is in the front here is of course the gun mounted 270, 280, 220, and on the side 300 millimeters, 500 millimeters here on this corner, and 240 millimeters here. The well hidden commander's hatch that makes no weak spots on the top of a turret. That's interesting. And all turret has about 260 to 170 millimeters, so against tier 8 and 9 it could be quite effective. On the side armor, 100 millimeters all over the hull, and on the turret 370, 200 millimeters, and 200, 213 on the back. So the armor on the turret is quite interesting and the well profile, so that could be quite difficult to penetrate. Maybe back side of it here in this area could be easier. On the back of a tank, 113 and 180, 190 on the turret. So that makes it's not easy, but also that's quite good protection against even the strongest high explosives be thrown by, for example, by the British lights. So I'm gonna protect 113 is quite effective against high explosives, but still weak point against the regular guns. So as you can see, the armor profile looks quite interesting on this tank. And if we look here, armor performance, look, tier 8 is whole dark. There's no sign of penetration point. Against tier 9, like I said, it's getting weaker here in those niches here on the turret. And tier 10, of course, the lower plate is weak, like among all the tiers gonna be weak. And here, like, that part of the turret could be penetrated. So if you aim properly, again on tier 10, you know, those big guns can penetrate the turret, so you got to be careful. And that will be it. I hope those informations and that quick review gonna bring you some useful informations, useful details about those tanks, help you up to make a decision and compare them with your own preferences, help you up to make a good buy, or maybe avoid the wrong one. So if you like those materials, you can thumb up, and of course if you are looking for information about the other tanks, you can browse the channel and find something for yourself, because there is few other tanks already reviewed. If you like my materials, you can subscribe to the channel and stay with us for longer. Of course, be informed about the incoming videos about the other tanks. Once again, thanks everyone for coming and watching, and like I said, I hope that's gonna be useful for you. Meanwhile, thanks again and see you next time. Take care.